Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball and everything that we thought we knew is absolutely wrong. There are 8 teams left, so we are going to recap the Sweet 16 games because we do that when we get to the later rounds and also predict who we have moving on into the Final Four. So, Tim, are you ready to go, good sir?
Hey, 8 teams left, 4 games, should be fun. Let's run it.
Can't get any worse than how we did in the Sweet 16. We were bad. Both of us were bad. 3-5 to be exact, because we went
Yeah,
chalk and chalk did not happen. Tim, you were saying, oh, where are all the upsets? Where are all the upsets? Yeah, here they are.
found them. I mean, here's the thing. They were upsets, yes, but they were upsets of pretty high seeds, which when you get to these teams that are this high of seeds, the line starts to, or the gap starts to thin a little bit. The downing of 2 1 seeds is definitely big to note. I certainly didn't see that coming. But you kind of, it has to happen at some point.
Yeah, guess
So
so.
it pretty wild, but we split on 2 games, and those 2 games split as well. So neither of us gained ground on the other one. Both
Yeah,
three
my
and five, both equally horrible.
my record runs to 34-22. Tim, your record runs to 30-26, which,
This time above 500.
dude, that is really the
Wow.
only silver lining for either one of us because in previous years, we're better than this. I promise you, go watch our previous years. We are much better than this. But this year has been so chaotic that
It's
are you
been
really
wild.
surprised? Yeah, Tim, you shouldn't have told people to dethrone you because they went and listened.
Honestly, I don't think me saying anything would have helped me with this one. That's with this
Probably not.
bracket.
Probably not.
But let's just say I made it pretty easy for people to dethrone me. So my claim is that I felt bad about winning 2 years in a row, so I had to let somebody else win. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And I will rebuttal with skill issue, but I won't say anything else because I was worse than you in the actual bracket challenge. But let's not talk about how bad we were at this stuff. Let's move on to the Elite Eight games and predictions, starting with UConn and Illinois. My big East Coast bias did not work out. In fact, the only game worked out on is UConn as they absolutely crushed the crap out of San Diego State, 82-52. It was an absolute rout, an absolute blowout. People thought that maybe San Diego State was going to cover the spread, but UConn left very little doubt.
Yeah, no, they really did not leave any doubt in this one. In fact, in terms of the way that they beat them, they beat them in a lot of different ways, but not necessarily some of what they're used to. Like for instance, Donovan Clingan. I mean, he had a decent game, but he didn't really do all that much. It was Cam Spencer and the rest of those guards that really put up most of those 82 points. And really, what it came down for San Diego State, anybody outside of Ledee just couldn't find a shot anywhere.
Absolutely not.
So they just couldn't find the offense, and obviously UConn finds nothing but offense. So it's a bad recipe for that game. So UConn continues to look really, really good. What a surprise.
UConn best team in college basketball, question mark?
There's 2 1 seeds left, so gotta
I,
battle it out from those two, I would say.
I mean, that would be an insane national championship, a storybook ending, but we still got a lot of games to go. And on the other side, yeah, fingers crossed for you. Um, Illinois and Iowa State. Illinois winning in a nail biter, 72-69. Their offense does not slow down. It is not stopped by the defense of Iowa State. That was the battle there. And with Illinois on that roll that we all know that they're on, they're playing at a very elite level, and they beat a very, very good Cyclones team. A Cyclones team, which in all reality had every opportunity to win this game, but it just swung in the Illini favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what it comes down to is some of the points that I brought up that Iowa State needed to do to sort of derail Illinois and find a way to win this one were, some of them happened. Like they were able to cause a decent amount of turnovers, but the biggest thing is stopping Terrence Shannon Jr. And realistically, there is no stopping him. You can really only hope to contain him. But the reason why he's so hard to stop is even if he's not necessarily having the best shooting game, he is so good. Quite frankly, pretty much like Zach Edey level of getting to the line. And that's another thing that he was able to do very, very well. He actually was not hitting his free throws against Iowa State. It wouldn't have been that close of a game if he did. But he's so good at finding offense and finding ways to get to the basket. And even if he's not knocking down a ton of shots. So that's what makes them so difficult. they were able to push past Iowa State's defense. The thing is what gets really interesting now is how Illinois matches up with UConn.
Yeah, that is the big thing. As good of a defense as Iowa State has, some can argue that UConn can step up and be just as good, but UConn's offense is miles ahead of Iowa State.
Yeah, it's nowhere close.
You get two of the best teams in college basketball right now. I think this is one of the two elite against elite matchups that you have. UConn has scary fellas all over the floor, guys that can beat you in a number of different ways. Illinois, Terrence Shannon Jr., like you said, is the engine. He's such a great creator of offense, but he also elevates the guys around him, and that makes Illinois as a unit so dangerous. It's fine. Big East Coast bias. I'm okay with that. But quite frankly, and I know this is going to upset you, UConn is the best team in college basketball right now, and it's not particularly close. I understand Purdue has played well. I think UConn crushes them, and I think UConn also crushes Illinois.
Wow. That your claim there is that UConn crushes Purdue?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a pretty wild claim to make right now. But I think
Listen, man, stranger things have happened, and somebody's got to make some wild claims here.
I'm not saying it's strange. I'm just saying to put that up, given how Purdue is also playing right now. But that's not what we're talking about right now. The way that this matchup comes down to for me is
before you say that, something that we completely missed in UConn and San Diego State is that it's a rematch of the national championship.
Yeah, they just kind of ignore.
We kind of dropped the ball on that one.
A little bit. Clearly, UConn didn't care.
No, didn't matter. Went about the same way as the national championship did last year. Yeah. Sorry, Aztecs, but you were saying?
Yeah, no. For this one, UConn has beat a lot of very good teams, and obviously they've had their way through some pretty decent teams. I think no one is as good as Illinois on their path through the NCAA tournament thus far. I don't think they've ever faced a team that has as unique of a scoring offense as Illinois does. First of all, I mean, you're talking number one versus number two in scoring efficiency offenses in the country. So that alone is going to make this one hell of a matchup on that side of things. But between trying to stay in front of Terrence Shannon Jr., if he gets hot, trying to guard Marcus Damask in the mid post, you don't face guards that love the mid post that much. Being able to pull Klingon away from the basket with guys like Coleman Hawkins, being able to still physically hold up against them with Dane Danger. Like, there are a few teams I think that match up physically and scoring wise, even defensively a little bit, the way that Illinois does with UConn. The way Illinois has been scoring the ball and the way they were able to overcome Iowa State's defense, you run with your Big East supremacy. I'm going to run with my Big Ten supremacy. I mean, Illinois has been playing really good basketball right now. As much as I obviously didn't like them during the season, I didn't want to see them succeed. They're playing really good basketball right now, and I can't deny the fact that they are really hard to stop on offense. I figure this one could be a pretty upwards shootout if both teams keep that similar trajectory and the way they've been able to score. And I think Illinois can win in a dogfight like that.
Given the fact that our logic has very clearly failed us thus far, we may or may not as well just turn to our biases. You got a Big Ten guy and a Big East guy, bound to clash there. So if everything that you think that you thought is not what you think that you thought that actually happened, then you think
don't think. That's what I've learned. Just don't think.
I was gonna say you thought different thinks, but whatever you said.
Just don't think. Too. Just don't think.
Or maybe I'm thinking too much. I don't know. Let's move right along to Alabama and Clemson. But first, how did these two teams somehow get here? Two matchups that we both predicted wrong. Alabama somehow held the fort down in a 2-point win against a very skilled North Carolina team. You have to give all the credit to Alabama in that one. I was told that Alabama's defense somewhat sort of held up. I don't know how true that
They
statement is,
did
given
give up
that
87 still.
exactly, given that they gave up 87, but in a two-horse race, all you gotta win by is 100th of a second, and you're the winner. Um, so
Alabama loves shootouts, and they were able to get this one to be a shootout, and they have the offense to essentially carry them through. I think what it came down to is they got enough stops in those last couple of
one more
minutes
bucket, one more
to keep
stop.
themselves exactly. When you keep a game close like that, obviously anybody can win. You see that with a lot of teams that are trying to make a big upset, and quite frankly, a 4-over-1 is a significant upset.
Well, a
So
six
all they
over
wanted to
two
do.
is also a pretty significant upset on the other side.
That is also true. But yeah, for Alabama, they just wanted to keep it close so that way they could rely on their offensive weapons to carry them through at the end there. And they were able to do that. I mean, I give them credit. I certainly haven't believed in them. But they've proven that their style of play is, I guess, is able to work in some capacity for the NCAA tournament. It's not what you're used to seeing. You're used to seeing a lot more of Kentucky type blowouts.
You think with Alabama that Mark Sears is going to be a star, but Grant Nelson registered a double-double, including 5
Yeah,
blocks. So when
he
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 becomes
came
the
up
primary
massive in that
option,
game.
when you get a second option there and you're busy guarding two guys that are on fire and shooting the ball well, because Mark Sears is obviously going to get his, but then that just makes all the difference in the world. And on the other side, you talk about Clemson and Arizona. I don't know how Clemson's still alive. I don't know how they're doing it. Chase
Blows my
Hunter is
mind. I
awesome.
am not happy.
No, me neither. I didn't like this Clemson team coming into the tournament. I still don't like him now. Chase Hunter's awesome. PJ Hall's very good. Other than that, I think more so Arizona just kind of dropped the ball.
Oh,
We
100%.
knew they were
They
going
shot.
to at some point in time. We thought it was going to be in the first round. It just so happened to be in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely shot themselves in the foot. They put up 72 points, but they also, I mean, Caleb Love went 5 for 18. This is exactly the blueprint of what I thought
Yep.
would make Arizona lose. He goes 0 for 9 from 3. Like, that's what it comes down to. And they had opportunities that they just couldn't take advantage of. Caleb Love tried to go do a little bit too much hero ball and take threes he didn't need to, and
That's
Clemson
it.
just wore them down. They just wore them down. They got smarter shots. They were able to play smarter defense, stop from fouling nearly as much. So they're able to limit Arizona's offense. And when you limit Arizona's offense, you're able to ground them a bit and get them from that up tempo style that they love so much. So it was enough to throw them off their game. And as much as Arizona, they made it interesting. Clemson was up pretty big, but a couple of different points, and Arizona kept pushing back. But as soon as they got within 3, 4, 5 points, Clemson would push back with a PJ Hall bucket or a couple of free throws or a three. So they seemed to just always had an answer.
Well, that's the thing. You mentioned that Arizona's offense was truly grounded. That's on Caleb Love when they get into that grounded mode.
Oh for
I don't
9
know
from 3.
what switch in Caleb Love's mind flips. I respect confidence, thinking that he can do it all by himself, but it's a common thread on Caleb Love led teams that when they get down and Caleb Love feels the need to play the hero, he just grabs that shovel and digs deeper. And it
He
turns
had
out,
he had 8 more shots than any of his teammates. So
I think
it
that
was going
tells
to
you
be win
everything
or
you need to
lose in
know.
the hands of Caleb Love, and
And he wasn't
he
even the
fell
team's
short.
leading scorer. Congratulations, Arizona. You let us down once again. So in this matchup that we normally see this late in football, Alabama and Clemson.
I didn't even think about the fact that we have a big time football matchup in the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not Dabo Swinney versus Nick Saban, but it's close. Alabama's offense, they push the ball, they run fast, they're fun, they're electric. And quite frankly, I said in the last episode, if Clemson wins, so be it. I'll be wrong picking against them. I'll be wrong picking against them again. Roll Tide.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been very both vocal about our Clemson dislike throughout, quite frankly, the end of the season as we covered them in our conference breakdown and the tournament.
I'm going to stop you right there. Not just Clemson, the ACC in general.
Correct. Yes, but
Which
in
extends to Duke and how weak the ACC has been as a whole. excluding North Carolina State. We tip our caps to them. No beef. Our beef is with the rest of the conference.
For this matchup, the one thing that Clemson has done really well is limit teams 3-point shooting. And that's kind of been their calling card of this tournament. And that's something that could give Bama some threats. But if there's any team that essentially has the ability to score in the various different ways and outpace Clemson with the various ways that they can score in their matchups, I think Alabama has the ability to do that. I think they also have the ability to guard PJ Hall relatively well. All in all, I think that Alabama has essentially the right tools to out battle Clemson in the way that Clemson wants to play. So I got Alabama in this one as well, not just because I still don't like Clemson. I think just looking at the way these two teams have gotten here, I like the way that Alabama plays against Clemson's style.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I also think Alabama matches up against Clemson very well. I also just don't like Clemson. I'll say it straight up. I don't
Fair
care.
enough.
We got two matchups left. We're gonna move on
Speaking
to
of another team that we don't like,
Duke and North Carolina State. There is nothing more that sums up this March Madness than the ACC being dog walked by the media, and yet almost half of the field remaining is ACC teams. What a
right?
world we live in. Duke toppled Houston 54-51 in an absolute defensive slugfest to get to this point. For Houston to only score 51.
I stand by the fact that this game is drastically different if Jamal Shed doesn't go down with that ankle injury. He
Yeah.
only plays 13 minutes, goes 1 for 5, 2 points. He is a massive part of not only the defense, but I would say particularly their offense and the way that they score
Mm-hmm.
the ball. Not having him, I think, is a big reason why they were only able to put up 52, and why things just didn't really work out for them. I mean, just he is a massive part of that team, and I saw, as the game was happening, they talked about, the X-rays came back negative, it was a bad sprain, but he was going to try to go. It's clear he only played 13 minutes. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to continue to go. So it sucks that that's the way that they go out, because I think that this was one of the most talented teams that Houston has had, despite them having a lot of essentially tournament letdowns. This was not the way you wanted to see a team like this go out, to essentially lose a key piece in such an important game. But when it comes down to it, the rest of those guys also have to be able to step up. They got next to no bench production, and their offensive guys in their starting lineup just weren't able to pick up the slack. So I wasn't necessarily particularly impressed by Duke either. Obviously, they only put up 54 of their own, but I think Houston wins this one without the injury.
I agree. To have such a pivotal piece out, it's an All-American.
Yeah,
That's going to be a huge blow for any team, regardless of whether you're a 1 seed or a 4 seed, or this, that, or the other, what
doesn't
have
matter.
you.
It doesn't matter the seed of who you are. Is if you lose a key piece of your team, you now have to figure out how to run your offense and run essentially the way you want to play without that piece, which is obviously no team is used to doing that for the most part.
And on the other side, North Carolina State does it again. They're still dancing with a 9-point win over Marquette. Tim, you got it.
I did. It's the one thing that I did get. I picked against them once and I regretted it, and I won't pick against them again.
Yeah, we'll see if
It
I
does
learn
kind of
my
play my hand
lesson.
in this one, but
That's fair. I want to give the Wolfpack their flowers, and you have to give them credit to getting to this point. But this game was not about the Wolfpack winning. This was about Marquette and Shaka Smart only reinvigorating the narrative that they can't get it done in March. And it's a bad narrative. It's a narrative that I'm not a fan of, because this Marquette team, Shaka Smart, an incredible coach. Marquette, impressive personnel. There's just a wall. There's just a block that they can't quite get past. And as a program, that's a killer, because you only get so many cracks at a championship. And
yeah.
Marquette's window is wide open. And there's nothing more that I wanted to see than teams in the Big East succeed. But when you drop the ball this hard in such a pivotal game, you got to wonder, like, what the heck is going on? I don't want to say Marquette is cursed, but what's up, brother?
One one stat line from this game that pretty much sums up the entire reason why Marquette dropped the ball. 4 for 31 from three.
North Carolina State's
13%.
defense. North
Ugh,
Carolina State's
that's
defense
horrible.
gave Marquette fits all night.
Yeah.
I saw Tyler Kolek dribble into double teams and then completely lose the handle and turn it over. I saw Oso Ighodaro get completely outmatched. DJ Burns had his way down low.
The ways that I thought NC State could that's some of the ways that I thought that NC State could beat Marquette was utilize, the matchups of what DJ Burns could do. Obviously, he didn't actually score the ball that much, but he actually ended up with 7 assists. So instead, it was get the attention on DJ Burns and then find the rest of the guys, which is a great way for that offense to work if they're going to put so much attention on Burns. So I think that's a way that NC State has found that can really beat up teams that have, pretty solid one-on-one matchups for the rest of the team. Very few teams have a guy that can match up with the likes of DJ Burns.
Is Kyle Filipowski one of them? That's to be determined. But it's very clear that NC State has found their winning formula. They are the original Survive and Advance from 1983, Coach Valvano and that squad. An excellent story. This is the reincarnation. They are figuring out ways, going round by round to defeat teams, and they're going to keep it going. I was unwise over the last few rounds. Granted, I did pick North Carolina State in the second round. But I'm going to rock with them here against their conference opponent. This is a battle. It's a North Carolina in-state matchup. It's not as intense of a
Not the
rivalry.
Duke North Carolina that we're used to.
Yeah,
but,
it's not quite Duke UNC, but these two teams are very, very familiar with each other. And I'm not quite sure that Duke is ready for this reinvigorated NC State. Duke is who we thought they were the entire season. Ever since the ACC tournament, NC State just had new blood pumped into them, and they look like a completely different squad than the one Duke saw in the regular season.
Oh, absolutely. They look entirely different. And I think one of the coolest things is you talk about the Survive and Advance team for NC State. They did that as a 6 seed. This is an 11 seed NC State. So for them to be doing crazier. This is yes, even crazier, even cooler. But I love the way they play. I love essentially how they're doing all this right now. So I'm sticking with them as well. Like I said, I'm not going against my guns on that one. So I'm sticking with NC State. I think they've got the right sauce right now. Whatever it is they're cooking.
They got Michael's secret stuff. He went for Tar Heel Blue and now he's in Wolfpack Red. That's gonna make some people in NC Nation angry. So we're gonna move right along to the final game, and what a matchup it's gonna be. If there's a matchup that can top UConn, Illinois in terms of talent, this is it. Purdue and Tennessee. Purdue looked incredible against Gonzaga. They played a tough battle in the first half, but it was not their best brand of basketball by any stretch of the imagination. And the fact that they were still up 4 at the half
and still put up 40,
that shows you how dominant this Purdue team can be. And like you said, and like you've preached all year, out of the gate in the second half is when the Boilermakers really shine, because how good Matt Painter is at making second half adjustments shows game in and game out. And they went and put up 40 more, left Gonzaga in the dust and cruising right along to this point. Tim, I know you're going to have your recap on this game. So,
I will.
So save it for lack of a better term.
I'm not going to talk too much about this one.
We're going to have an entire video. So if you really want to listen to how Purdue beat Gonzaga, we got that coming. But on the other side, Tennessee and Creighton, Tennessee pulled away in the second half. And
such a crazy game to watch.
And even though Creighton had one final push towards the end, Tennessee was just too much. We knew full well that this game could go either way. I'm really not shocked that the Volunteers pulled this one off. They are very spooky. Rocky Top is looking very spooky right about now. So it's a battle, Tim. I'm going to start with you. Who do you got?
I mean, who do I got? In this matchup? You know who I have in terms of the way that that
I
Tennessee.
don't
I want to
know.
talk about Tennessee Creighton for a second first, because watching that game in the second half, Tennessee went on an 18-0 run to go up 16, and then Creighton shot right back at like a 20-6 run to go right back at him and cut the game back down. So it was absolutely wild to watch two juggernauts going back and forth. I think what it came down to, Trey Alexander came up short for Creighton. The other guys performed. Trey Alexander just didn't have that much. I mean, he still ended up with 13, but 3 of 12 shooting. Whereas for the Volunteers, Dalton Connect didn't have his best game, but he still puts up 24. They got enough from the supporting cast, and their defense was able to do enough to bother Creighton. But yeah, in this matchup, I have Purdue.
I guess asking who you have was a silly
Like,
question.
you already know, you've said in all of these other videos is, oh, I know who you have, but in this one you ask me who I have. Obviously, with the way Purdue is playing right now, I still have reason outside of just being a fan to pick Purdue in this matchup, because obviously we've seen these two teams face off before. And the way that Purdue was able to beat them then, and they weren't even as good of a shooting team at that point. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is if Purdue can keep up their level of shooting. I don't think it will matter nearly as much as whether or not Zach Edey gets 25 or not, but that seems inevitable regardless. They still have to guard Dalton Connect, though. That's going to be the biggest challenge, is how do you guard Connect?
Yeah. And looking at this matchup, I still go back and forth. And that's partially why I ask you, who do you have? Because this is
Mm-hmm.
far and away Purdue's toughest test. No matter who they were going to see at this point, it was going to be the toughest matchup that they were going to face. And Tennessee can absolutely give them fits. And I know the regular narrative is, when's the other shoe going to fall? People are preying on Purdue's downfall. They hate to see him at this point. And Tim, you love playing the role of the villain, as you
Hey, I'm all
should.
here for it.
It's very fun. Playing the villain, there's no better feeling than shutting everybody else up. Um, I'm nervous. I have Purdue also. However, however, I'm not 100% confident in it. I can't be. With
Oh,
the
oh
way
gosh, no.
Tennessee is playing, with
Yeah.
how good they are, with the personnel, the way they match up against Purdue, scheme fit, coaching, all of it. This is going to be a battle, and I have absolutely no idea. Flip a coin for all I care. I mean, my heart wants Purdue to move on, so quite
Yeah.
frankly, I'm gonna pick them, Tim. I'm riding with you. I'm riding with the train school. I'm all right with it, but yeah, good luck.
No, you
You
can't
got
be
your hands
100%,
full.
and you can't be 100% confident in any of these matchups. Obviously not
Sure,
in
you
not in
can.
March anyway. But in
You could be
my
wrong,
mind,
but you could be confident.
screw style of play, screw offense versus defense. What it comes down to for me in this one, you have Dalton Connect, you have Zach Edey. You have two of the biggest stars in college basketball in terms of scoring capabilities, National Player of the Year conversation, all that stuff. Take them out of the equation. Supporting cast versus supporting cast. That's going to be who wins this game. Which supporting cast plays better? And obviously, both of them have played very well. Now, Tennessee had a game where their supporting cast looked a little bit more shaky. They came back in this one and put up a very solid performance. But it's going to be who is able to shoot the ball, who is able to score the ball, and quite frankly, who is able to defend better outside of those two stars, because those two stars are going to get theirs. They're going to get their 20, 25 plus. But if your supporting cast doesn't step up, that's what happened for Creighton in this one a little bit. If you don't get a complete performance, that'll be who wins and who loses.
But that's all we got for our Elite Eight predictions. If you want to watch our other predictions throughout the March Madness tournament, we have the first round, second round, and Sweet 16 for you. So if you want to recap how poorly we did, you can go check that out. We also have lots of other college basketball content, including Tim's Purdue recaps. He has been riding along right with the Boilermakers on the train all season. He's going to continue to do that as long as they keep winning. But if there's anything else you want us to talk about, let us know. And until next time, we out.